Don't we want people who want to be here so badly that they will risk everything to be in America and to be an American? Aren't those the people that we want in this country?
We want people to come in. We want people to come in legally. Now, if you look at the polls that come out on the Hispanics, the people that are here and have gone through the process, they're here legally, I'm doing great. I mean, I'm going to win the Hispanic vote, in my opinion. I mean, we're going to see what happens.
Donald Trump gets a lot of credit for raising the profile of immigration and border security in the GOP primary this cycle, but Democrats and some of his GOP rivals continue to use his comments against him. As for the Democrats, they are trying to tie the entire GOP to Trump's views. Case in point, the Democratic Party is setting up voter registration tables in heavily Latino areas while also highlighting what they consider to be Trump's inflammatory rhetoric. Let's open up this edition of The Political Animal. You've seen him on the left of several of our political discussions, also the senior political contributor at Forbes.com, as well as co-host of the Steele and Ungar radio program, which I catch every Saturday, by the way. Rick, thanks for being with us. Also joining us, the executive director of Latino Partnership at the Conservative American Principles Project, a person who acknowledges that, quote, Donald Trump is a political gift to the Democratic political machine. Alfonso Aguilar with us as well. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us. Alfonso, let's start with you. Democrats are using Donald Trump's words against him, trying to register Democratic voters. Do you think this will actually work? Because to me, it seems kind of un-American trying to determine, while someone registers to vote, who they're going to vote for or against in this case.
Well, I don't know if it's un-American. I think, sadly, it works because a lot of Hispanics, I think the vast majority, are angered and furious with what Donald Trump has been saying about immigration and about Mexican immigrants. Having said that, I think it's very condescending and insulting to Latinos that Democrats are trying to generalize and say that all of the Republican candidates in the field are like Trump, that their views on immigration are like Trump's. That's ridiculous. I think the majority know that the majority, actually, of Republican candidates for president want to be constructive on the issue, that Donald Trump is an exception. But again, having said that, I think that Democrats are using Trump because he has been offensive in terms of what he has said about immigrants, the proposals that he's advancing to deal with immigration, mass deportation, for example. And so he has antagonized Hispanics, and it may lead to a lot of them registering and actually voting. So it does help the Democrats.
Rick, do you think there is going to be a marked difference in the number of Latino voters that show up to vote Democrat this time around just because of Donald Trump, or do you think there's more being made of this than appears to the eye?
Well, I don't think there's more being made of it than appears to the eye. They've certainly been given more motivation than they might normally have. That does not.
But I'm talking about the results.
Yeah, it doesn't always translate to more voters. There's absolutely no way of knowing, to be honest. I mean, as I say, they may be more motivated this time. It also has a lot to do with who ends up being the nominee of the Republican Party. Were Trump to go on to get the nomination, I do think that it would inspire more Latino voters. If he doesn't, then probably at the same rates as we've seen in recent years.
Yeah, there's some demographic challenges that the Republican Party faces this time, even more so than they faced the last time around. And you look at states like Texas.
You mean Republican challenges?
I'm sorry, yes, demographic challenges for Republicans. Yeah. But if you look at some early forecasting for which states might be turning more purple than red, you look at Georgia, you look at Texas, perhaps. And I know there was a documentary on PBS where South Carolina Congressman Mick Mulvaney talked about the fact that this time around in Texas, there are going to be 3 million more Latino voters registered in the state of Texas alone. Alfonso, anybody on the Republican side doing enough to reach these voters?
Certainly. I think Marco Rubio, I think Jeb Bush. Look, I think the Republican Party is actually doing a good job in terms of putting a structure to engage Latino voters in the general election and to actually get voters out, Hispanic voters out, to vote for the Republican candidate. But at the end, I think it depends on who the candidate is. I think if you have somebody like well, like anybody in the field except Donald Trump and perhaps Ted Cruz, I think that would be attractive to Hispanic voters. Look, even Ben Carson came out supporting a guest worker program under which Latino immigrants from Latin America, could come out of the shadows. So he's not calling for amnesty. He's calling for a sensible approach, recognizing that we cannot deport over 11 million people. I don't think Hispanic voters expect Republicans to support Obama's amnesty or be for a path to citizenship. They just want a candidate to be constructive, positive on the issue. And going back to the states that are turning purple, I mean, if you look at the battleground states, there are about 6 to 8 of them. At least 4 or 5 of them, in 4 or 5 of them, the Latino vote is decisive. Think about Florida. Think about Colorado.
Right.
Think about Nevada.
Let's bring Rick back in here. Rick, we know that the Democrats say Marco Rubio is the candidate they want to see as the nominee least. But who do you think is the candidate they want to run up against the most? Is it Trump?
It has to be Trump. And I have to disagree just a bit with Alfonso. I've yet to see a Republican candidate that is going to succeed with the Latino population. Marco Rubio at one point could have. I think he's been so busy backpedaling off of his Gang of 8 days that he's lost. I will agree on Jeb Bush, though. Unfortunately, Jeb Bush doesn't have any power whatsoever as he goes through this process. We'll see how that works out. But he's the only one that I can see that might get some more votes out of the Latino community. Trump would obviously be the dream candidate. I think Ted Cruz, who's also a very likely candidate, would have a very difficult time running against the Democrat nominee.
Neither one matches up well against Hillary Clinton in a head-to-head poll. And, well, Jeb Bush said he had to lose the primary to win the general. He's about to test that theory out. Alfonso Aguilar and Rick Unger, thanks so much for being with us, guys.